What's up, everyone? This is the Next Tape Podcast, episode 105 with Mikel
And Tanyka.
where we have conversations on different topics. So, this is going to be our traditional topic episode. Uh, and Tanika has gotten some good topics for us. Is that right, Tanika?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a potential, we're going to be talking about a potential, not sure if it's still going to happen, but
Mhm.
potential TikTok ban here in Canada.
Oh, really? Oh,
Potential.
wow. Okay. No,
Well,
I'll indulge into that
yeah,
later on. Go ahead. Go ahead.
potential. They're also going to be talking about a half-century cold case that's been cracked
Mm-hmm.
fairly recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have an update on that real estate lawyer who committed fraud. We remember we talked about that
Oh,
maybe a couple months ago now.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's what we're gonna be doing.
All right. Let's get to that.
All right. So trying to remember exactly when this was, but it hasn't been that long. Not too long after the American ban, which I know has
Mhm.
been lifted at this point.
Yeah.
But
All
Canada
thanks,
now.
all thanks to Trump. Ooh, I feel like
Oh,
it's I feel like it's kind of staged the way how they did it. In my opinion, they
well, I
closed
mean,
it. I
technically,
mean,
the ban happened under the previous administration,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah,
was
yeah. That's true too. Previous
right.
administration, yeah.
Yeah, because it was
So,
the previous administration that announced it, and it
yeah.
happened during that administration, like
Was it was
barely.
it was it because of security reasons?
I think so, because
Yeah.
people don't trust the Chinese, I guess, which I totally get. But
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah.
Okay. Uh,
So Canada announced that it is banning TikTok after a rigorous national security review, and TikTok says it will challenge the decision in court. So the review took place under the Investment Canada Act, which allows for the review of foreign investments that may be harmful to Canada's national security.
mm,
The news led many Canadians to wonder if they could still use the short form video app. However, there is no reason to worry about your ability to access it.
mm,
The government has ordered a windup of TikTok Technology Canada Inc., which doesn't mean TikTok will be removed or blocked from Google Play and app stores in Canada. But the ban will affect TikTok employees at the Toronto and Vancouver offices.
oh,
According to the platform's Canadian newsroom, hundreds of TikTok workers are in the country. Saying, quote, the government is taking action to address the national security risks related to, I think it's Limited's operations in Canada through the establishment of TikTok Technology Canada Inc.
yeah.
Uh,
That's the company that owns TikTok. Yeah,
mm.
ByteDance. Yeah.
And this was said by Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry, Francois Philippe Champagne, saying, quote, the decision was based on the information and evidence collected over the course of the review and on the advice of Canada's security and intelligence community and other government partners. Minister Champagne, hopefully it's Champagne, but anyways, clarified that this wouldn't block the average TikTok user's access to the app or their ability to make content. Still, it doesn't sound like he recommends using it, saying, quote, the decision is to use a social media application or platform is a personal choice. It is important for Canadians to adopt good cybersecurity practices and assess the possible risks of using social media platforms and applications, including how their information is likely to be protected, managed, used, and shared by foreign actors, as well as to be aware of which countries' laws apply. That's very interesting.
Mm,
The government encourages Canadians to consult the guidance issued by Communication Security Establishment, Canada's Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, to help them assess these risks.
mm.
Unlike the US, TikTok doesn't have a creator fund system in Canada, which
Mhm,
has been a pain point for influential creators. Many have resorted to having US based accounts to make money.
mhm,
There are worries and speculations that this call could affect
mhm,
further opportunities to earn funds through the app. Many also don't see the point of halting the company's operations and affecting workers while allowing Canadians the same level of app access, which I tend to agree with. I don't understand that either. But
mhm,
anyway, quote, while Canada continues to welcome foreign direct investment, the government will act decisively when investments threaten our national security,
right,
said by the Minister of Champagne.
mhm,
So soon after the government announcement, TikTok Canada posted a brief statement saying, quote, shutting down TikTok's Canadian offices and destroying hundreds of well-paying local jobs is not in anyone's best interests, and today's shutdown order will do just that. We will challenge this order in court. The TikTok platform will remain available for creators to find an audience, explore new interests, and for businesses to thrive.
mhm,
The where's that? So TikTok currently has 82 Canadian job openings posted on LinkedIn. So
right.
I don't know how that's gonna turn out, but anyways,
So explain in short form what's happening, because like, is it because of uh free speech, or is it because like security reasons why Canada's banning um TikTok?
Canada. So again, just to clarify,
Yeah.
the ban in TikTok does not mean that us as Canadians can't access the app, still make content on the app. It's not mirroring the ban that happened in the States, where
Mhm, mhm,
people in the States did not even have access to the app for, what was it, like a month or two.
mhm,
Um, so it's not going to be like that. But the reason that they're doing this, the reason they're saying they're doing this is because of security, cybersecurity. That's why they're doing it. Because I guess they're kind of saying that, you don't know what's going to be kind of happening. This app isn't necessarily as secure as maybe other apps. You
mhm.
also don't know the rules in other countries that are accessing your content and
Right.
what that can mean. Because kind of like even more so than like Twitter,
Mhm.
TikTok is kind of an app that's kind of like the wild, wild west. There isn't the same rules and regulations as like maybe Facebook or let's say Meta. So
Right.
that's kind of what's kind of going on here. And because of this quote unquote ban, which is not going to feel like a ban to the average user in Canada, it's going to create job loss for people who work within TikTok Canada,
Yeah.
like the corporation.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
that's
Okay.
basically what's happening.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Wow. That's a shame because like, uh, there's a lot of people who are gonna be losing their jobs, and it's sad at this rate of the Canadian economy, because like, things are
Mm,
getting
yeah.
expensive, etc. And yeah,
And
if it
it's taking
happens.
longer for people to get jobs, you know?
Yes. Yes.
And
Yeah.
depending what people are doing, whatever the job is that they're doing at TikTok
Mhm,
corporate in
mhm,
Canada,
mhm,
um, it could be very niche, which makes it
mhm,
even harder to find work. Because like I have a friend right now who's looking for work and,
mhm.
you know, EI is about to run out um and she doesn't have a job, you know?
Yep.
And that's a person who, doesn't necessarily work in a niche industry, but, you know, is still struggling to find work. So like the job market right now in Canada, especially through like the GTA,
Mhm.
is really difficult.
Yeah, it's terrible because like I'm also looking for like a second job, right?
Hmm.
And it's kind of hard to find. It's been taking a long time for me to just like, even get a call. Like, I'm qualified for a lot of these jobs, but they're not calling. So like, same with my former coworker. She came to my workplace the other day. She said like it's hard to find a job nowadays, second job, because like it's
Or just a job
um
in general.
yeah, job in general, because like the economy, so the people want to stay in their jobs because like they know it's tough to get another one or tough to get hired in another place. So yeah, um
Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
and a lot of go ahead.
no, no, no. Go ahead. What you were saying.
A lot of companies right now are also like struggling too. So like they can't afford to uh I think lose employees in my opinion. Am I right about that, or is it just like
I think
is
it
it
depends on the company.
yeah.
Like if I look at like my company and the many changes that's
Mhm,
kind of happened in the last couple years,
mhm,
it's I'm in a position where it's very frustrating for me as, an assistant who's managing like, my boss's calendar
mhm,
and, sometimes he wants like a junior to, you know, take a discovery or whatever the case may be. And
right,
it's really difficult when it's like we're short staffed. We don't have a lot of junior lawyers, or at least in his, because he's a partner, just, um, lawyers that are, you know, way under him in terms of their year of call and stuff like that. There's not a lot of people that you can really depend on that can do it. Is really one person who's,
mhm,
junior, but, it's been a lawyer for about 5 years now, close to that. And then
mhm,
we have another lawyer who's a baby lawyer. Literally, your call is like this year. She's a baby lawyer. And it's really difficult. And I don't think, have the resources to hire somebody
mm,
new. Um,
yeah,
uh, you know, sometimes even me, sometimes like I need like two of me. Like
mhm,
there needs to be more of me to keep up. But again, it's
mhm,
just yeah. There's other things I could say too. I will leave it at that. But we're downsizing,
mm,
and it's like, hold on, wait a minute. Maybe don't completely downsize, but that's the problem. I think that some companies are having, or at least like I can say my company's having. Um, But, like even when I hear my boyfriend talk about his workplace as well, it's like sometimes like he would be so busy. Constantly there's overtime available at his place, and he would take a lot of overtime shifts.
oh yeah,
Um
take advantage of that, yeah,
yeah,
because
and
I
now
would.
oh yeah, and he
Yeah,
would. He definitely would.
yeah,
Um and it would help with, supplementing his income, right?
mhm,
But in the space of like 2, 3 years, it's like months and months and months will go by, and it's like, he hasn't even done an overtime shift, like, nothing like that's happened. Like, I remember he would have mandatory shifts that he, like, has to go in,
mhm,
and that doesn't happen anymore, and there's times he's leaving early. Like, he still get paid, obviously, I would too when his time is up, but because that's out of his control, but he would be leaving early because there's no more work available, and it's
mhm,
like, I don't know, it's, hopefully it's fine. He's been working there for almost a decade, but it's maybe over a decade. But it's just like that's kind of what's happening with companies right now is companies are struggling, in that sense too.
yeah,
Um
a lot of
and
companies, yeah.
and even him, like he's talked about doing like, with everything we're doing,
See see, I see that a lot of companies don't hardly train anymore either, like,
Mm,
a lot of companies want, like, people with experience now, like expecting them to know when you get
To
in
know
the
you.
field. Not they just don't want to train anymore. It's like I do find those, companies that just don't want to train or, or anything else. And that's crazy because like back in the day, there were people open to, train people who don't have a lot of experience. Nowadays, you have to have experience, 7 months, 1 to 3 months. And I'm like, what? 1 to 3 months experience? What
Well,
have you
yeah,
seen? What have
and I think like what kind of what you do versus what I do is a little different, but
Yeah, yeah, I know.
like they at least want you to have the basic knowledge. Like I can just kind of say generally speaking,
Yeah,
in my
yeah.
field, you know,
Obviously, yeah,
you
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of want someone to have the general knowledge. You
Mhm,
don't want to have to explain like, you know, the ins and outs of what you studied or what you've been doing or whatever the case
mhm,
may be.
mhm,
You don't want to do that. You kind of more want to focus on training a person on just the system.
mhm,
You may not necessarily know how to use certain things. Like for, my legal people out there, you maybe will train people on ACL or prima fact or
mhm,
whatever the case may be, because maybe they just haven't used those programs before. That's one thing, because that kind of time would it's not going to take very long for you to learn how to use a program
mhm.
or learn how to, if you're doing something like, you know, learning how to stock or, you might have to learn how the company is their ways of doing stock,
Yeah, like
but
each,
you know the
yeah,
basics because you already know how to do it,
yeah,
generally speaking.
yeah,
So,
right, yeah.
yes, I do find that companies don't want to waste the time on telling people the law or telling them how to do like something
Mhm,
they should already know how to do. And I get that. But
mhm.
you have people who don't have that experience. And it's like, well, how does a person start? You know, you got to start from somewhere,
Mhm.
right? But
But I feel like each company does like if you start like if you get hired like a stalker, all right,
mm,
and the one company does it this way, another company does it in a different way.
right,
So like I just feel like yes, you know what you're doing, but what if another company just does it differently, right? And they're telling you you're doing it wrong, right? This is not how it's done. I'm like, but you know, like train me, and the most likely you get that response like, "Oh, you should know what you're doing. You have the experience, right? I interviewed you." So how it's crazy because you get responses like that, but I'm asking you to just train me in the way that you guys do it, right?
right,
Because I don't know how you guys do it. I only know the way that I know from my previous jobs that I've been doing it. So
right.
yeah, so go
Like
ahead.
even like for me when I was working in retail,
Yeah.
it it's like really and truly the only retail jobs that I had was within the Gap companies.
Mhm,
So I did, well, besides Target, we don't need to talk about that.
mhm,
We don't need to talk about Target
mhm.
because
Yeah.
I was only there for like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, besides that though, I worked in the Gap company, had two different jobs within their companies,
Uh-huh.
and I did cash, right?
Mhm,
So, like, their point of sale
mhm,
system is gonna be different than, like, Walmart or, like, whatever, right?
mhm,
So, they liked like, my first job was Banana Republic factory, and then my
mhm,
second was the Gap factory,
mhm,
and they a Gap factory loved the fact that I worked within a company already, that I kind of already know the system. So that was a good thing. They didn't have to really train me
Mhm,
fully or, because I had some basic knowledge because I had used the system before.
mhm,
So that was beneficial to them, obviously. And, you know, I stuck through that until I had my last job. But, um, so that was one thing. But like, if I were to have taken, that and gone to Walmart or
mhm,
whatever,
mhm,
you're gonna have to train me on how to use the system because
mhm.
I've
You
not
guys,
used your system. Your system's
yeah,
gonna be different,
different, yeah,
And oh yeah, I did
exactly.
also work at the Bay. I forgot about that, but I wasn't
Yeah, yeah,
like in that
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
But
yeah.
if I was, you would have had to teach me how to use your point of sale.
Yeah,
So, that,
yeah, like,
yeah,
I just don't get that, like, that sentence where a lot
yeah.
of the managers are just telling you, "You should know what you're doing," you know? "You have experience," like that's just like, you're telling me you just don't wanna train me at all, and you're just lazy to train me. I have gotten that in the past, like, I had a past manager that told me that they're lazy and, and, they want to, certain things a little closer, like, to put the shoes, and I did that, but it wasn't right, and I'm like, "So train me," but it wasn't her that trained me, it was the assistant manager where she was supposed to train me because she's the manager, so I
Mhm.
just yeah, yeah, and that
Yeah,
led
and
me
the
to this.
managers should be present,
Mhm,
you
mhm,
know. Any shift that I did, Banana Republic was a little more short-lived, but,
mhm,
um and it was a long time ago that I did that job, but
mhm,
at the Gap, it's like you never you were never on the floor without a manager kind of out
right,
there with you. Or
right,
if they weren't out there with you, you at least knew where they were. They're a walkie-talkie away or whatever. So
mhm,
a manager should always be present.
right,
Um, and I never found any of the managers that I worked with at the Gap factory lazy or anything.
mhm,
So it's you can't be. It's because I think people take advantage of the fact that it's a retail job or
mhm,
it's, fast food restaurant or whatever the case may
yeah,
be. They take advantage of the fact that it's not an office job per se,
mhm,
and they don't have to really put their all into it, but you do.
yeah,
You do. It's a job.
yeah,
Like, I can never half-ass my job. Sometimes I wish I could, but I can't half-ass my job.
mhm,
I just I can't do that,
yeah,
you know?
I agree.
The work would never get done,
Mhm,
and that applies to retail as well, or whatever the case may be. You
mhm,
can't half-ass because nothing will get done. So,
yeah, yeah, nothing will get done, so but yeah, we kinda went, like, a little bit
a
off
little bit.
track, a little bit, but it has a lot to obtain to, like, a lot of employees, get laid off or find another job, and, it's hard to find another, job nowadays in Canada, as you the economy is not doing very
I wouldn't
well.
even just say Canada because I don't know what the job market's like in other provinces,
And yeah, in the
but
world
at
too, yeah.
least
Yeah.
in the GTA, let's say,
Yeah.
like, maybe even other parts of Canada's of Ontario, I mean, is maybe not so bad, but at least in the GTA, it's really
Mhm.
difficult.
Durham is still kinda still, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, yeah. Sad that that's happening. If it happens, and that Canada's looking to, ban TikTok. 'Cause it's like I don't watch TikTok that much, to be
No, I
fair.
only do TikTok for the
Like,
podcast.
but I do, yeah, yeah, I do that for podcast. Yeah, I would do. But like, I know a lot of employees who like, who scroll down at TikTok and then they just deleted it because it was just like time consuming. You just scroll
Yeah.
up, scroll up, scroll up,
A
scroll
and
up. It's just like,
that's the thing. It's like it's funny because I was actually watching Teen Mom,
Yeah.
the next chapter, they
Yeah.
call it now. And again, for the people who watch the show,
Mhm.
Tyler kind of made a comment to the now 16-year-olds and kind of say, social media is such a prevalent thing in your life. It wasn't like that when we were kids. And it's like, oh, well, no, it was. We had Facebook, even though it was very new at the time. We had MySpace.
Yep.
We had our things too. It just wasn't like it is today. So you can get lost in like reels or stories or the, TikTok videos or whatever the hell they call them. You can
Yeah.
get lost in those things. So I
Yep.
think like I don't do that.
Mhm.
Um like really and truly like I've watched mostly like reels on Facebook,
Mhm.
but like if you're on Facebook and you kind of see you get like maybe like a little reel of like maybe 6 videos or whatever, I might watch like some of those videos and then I stop. I might do
Mm.
that like a couple times throughout the day and then I stop. Um,
No,
and then
no,
really besides that, the only other thing I watch is like Joe Santagato, Baseball New York, stuff like that, which is like they do videos once a week,
no,
right?
they do have a timeout function too. Like, when
Yeah, which I think people
I
need to
think
implement.
yeah, I think I don't know if it's for kids or adults. I don't know if that function is on there,
It should
but
be for both. Adults are
yeah,
just as bad,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. If they do, then that's a good feature to have. But
Yeah, especially with TikTok, 'cause I think like it can be very addictive.
mhm,
Um, like I know, like really, honestly, the only time I'm watching
mhm,
videos on
mhm,
TikTok is when
mhm,
friends are sending it to me, and then I'm
mhm,
watching it. Otherwise, like I don't watch videos on TikTok.
mhm,
I don't know if it's just I don't care or if I just don't
mhm,
have the time
mhm,
or what. Probably all of the above. But
yeah.
like I just yeah,
Yeah, no,
I
if I'm
don't I
getting
don't do it.
well, yeah, yeah. Well, if I'm getting paid for it, then I'll scroll down, watch your videos, and
Yeah.
But if a friend send me, I watch a video, I'll watch it too. Like, but otherwise than that, I'll watch it, want that one video, and then close it.
Yeah, same.
That's it, basically. And just
Same.
I don't just
I
yeah, I can't do cat videos like 20 times. Like I don't know
and
why.
I love cat videos. I love
Yeah,
dog videos. I love them all. But there's limits for
yeah, yeah,
me
yeah.
because I just don't have the time. I just
Hmm.
don't.
Hmm.
Like I don't post on anything
Hmm.
personally speaking,
Hmm.
very much. Like I just don't. I did. I used
Hmm.
to, when I
Hmm.
was in my early 20s, but
Right.
now being, oh God, mid 30s,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I I just don't have time. I have so much
yeah,
going on in
yeah,
life
yeah.
that I don't
Uh,
for me to get sucked into that, no, I just can't do it to myself.
well, time poor. And what do you call it? I know I said the PlayStation CEO said time poor and I'm not saying that rich, but like money rich or something like that. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
when you're teenagers, you're time rich.
Mhm.
You don't have you're poor. You're kind of poor with money, blah blah blah. But when you're adults, you're time poor and you have the money. So that's what he meant of that. So like,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
I mean,
uh,
for me, like, tell me you're a 90s baby. If I tell me you're a 90s baby, the things that I was doing was like, you know, making your MySpace pretty or
oh
building
yeah,
like those like quote
but
unquote
it,
websites or
it,
like whatever.
but it didn't need like to upload a video. It didn't need to. Well,
No,
you if
you'd
yeah, go
upload
ahead.
like you do like music,
Yeah, music
or
or
backgrounds, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
You learn how to code.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That was the first thing. That yeah, you learn how to code like that. I know like you put the bold, the B,
Yes.
the
Oh
square
my
slash
God, yeah.
B.
Yeah.
is it square, or is it like the what do you call it?
The like triangle ones.
The try, yeah, the
Yeah.
arrows. There you go.
The arrows.
Like
Yeah.
backwards, the greater arrows or whatever
Yeah.
it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you just like slash B or bold. Yeah, yeah. You still do that to this day. Like you learn so much from that, from coding, a little bit of coding from that,
Yeah.
and you
And
still
I mean,
do.
I did a little bit of that in high school too, because I did like web design
Yeah,
class.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I know like when I'm doing the descriptions, you can still require to do that. You know like for the podcast, it's like you still have to do like the arrows slash B slash the arrows, and then if you want it bold, you want that
Yeah. Yeah.
bold.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 you understand. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like we just have MySpace and then Facebook. We didn't have to like Facebook wasn't like
Facebook was in its infancy.
yeah, it wasn't like
We
scroll.
were
It
in
was
high school.
yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
people were just taking pictures and just like just commenting on them, and I don't think people were just like scrolling. I don't think videos were like popular back
No,
then.
no,
You know,
no, it wasn't
yeah.
like and also like if you even think about it, like Instagram, the idea of Instagram to me was like, so it's just an app for photos. Why? You know what I mean? And now look at it. So it's just like, yeah, like things are like, it's crazy to kind of think about the fact that we pretty much grew up with Facebook. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
like, look like how Facebook started out, which I honestly cannot even remember what Facebook was like when I was in high school. But you didn't have like, the emoticons or whatever. You only had like, and I remember when people were like, we want more than just like, and then that happened.
Mhm.
So it's like kind of see social media evolve,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
obviously social media has a dark side, and I think with
Mhm.
TikTok, it's I think it's just the constant spending so much time
Mhm.
watching the videos and
Mhm.
whatnot and wasting
Mhm.
away your day doing that. And I don't know how people do that because I just
Yeah,
no,
no.
I don't have time for that.
I do. Well, to be fair, I do prefer the long form content, longer videos than short form. To be
And that's
fair,
why I watch
yeah,
really the only really long form thing I
yeah,
watch
yeah,
is
yeah.
like the Joe Santagato
Mhm.
um
Mhm.
content.
Mhm.
So that's kind of it.
Like, yeah, YouTube has those type of long form
Yeah.
content creators, and I
Yeah.
prefer those over like over a TikTok that's short and sweet because you can never like understand too much of content. You kind of it gets to the point, but like at the end of the day, you just like you kind of just want more information. If you need to
Yeah.
know more
Yeah.
about something, kind
Yeah.
of search. I would kind of search either like YouTube or like Google just for that type of content. But like otherwise than that, yeah, I prefer long content, and if I had
Yeah.
to choose between YouTube and TikTok, which one's better, I feel like YouTube is 100% all
And
the time.
Facebook, like you can still do longer
Yeah, yeah,
than
yeah,
even TikTok,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like even that's more preferable to me than,
Mhm,
like TikTok. But
mhm,
I do find like some people, like some of the videos I watch on Facebook, they're gearing it to TikTok because they're not just posting it on Facebook, they're also
right,
posting it on TikTok. So
right,
it
right.
that's also the problem. But
Yeah.
I mean I have my creators that I like to watch and but that's basically it.
Mhm. Well, yeah. That's pretty much it. I wanted to say about TikTok. So
Yeah, me too.
um, yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, let's move on to the next topic.
Yep.
So, for nearly 45 years, the identity of the human remains that were found along a rural road north of Toronto remained a mystery.
Mhm,
So, on July 16th, 1980,
mhm,
in Markham, Ontario, a resident made the discovery near a wooded area on 11th Concession between 14th and Steeles Avenue. Unbeknownst to them, the remains belonged to William Joseph Pennell,
mhm,
a convict who had escaped to Kingston prison a month earlier. So he went far away from Kingston to Markham. But anyways, York Regional Police previously announced that investigators had identified the remains in 2023 after the case stayed cold for decades. They said that investigative genetic genealogy held the key to linking the body to Penal after investigators positively identified his relatives. Um, so like basically, how did they do that? So CTV News Toronto spoke with, I think it's Othro, a Texas-based forensic company that assisted police in making the identification to learn more about the process. So for people who don't listen or watch true crime, this will be new for you, but people who do are like, please, we already know about this, but anyways, let's continue. So Pennell's remains were first exhumed in 2007 by cold case investigators in an attempt to create a facial reconstruction and to obtain DNA, police said. A year later, a DNA profile was developed and uploaded to the National DNA database, but there were no matches, which is really interesting because he was an inmate at a Kingston prison.
Mm.
How are there no matches with his DNA?
Mm.
That seems insane to me.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Mm.
Investigators then turned to IgG, so that's the genetic genealogy, in 2021 and contacted Othram in the Woodlands, Texas, in 2022 for help with the case, saying, quote, Othram received skeletal evidence, and the first thing that we need to do is we need to extract DNA from the bone. Forensic files, anybody? And so we did that. They're getting like basically like the bone, like it's marrow in there.
Mhm.
Um, so it was said by the company's chief of staff, Colby, I think it's a little Lazone, told
Mhm.
CTV News Toronto at an interview earlier that
Mhm.
week. Lazion said the team then worked to develop a new DNA profile that York Regional Police used to upload into a database and cross-reference with profiles on certain family tree websites before eventually finding a match.
Mm.
If you've done a genealogy test with a consumer genealogy testing company, if you've done a genealogy test with with a consumer genealogy testing company, you have to actually upload your DNA profile into a database. There are databases where law enforcement actually can query those databases. And so, in
Mhm.
order for genetic genealogy to be done in a case, we can only match against databases where individuals have consented for law enforcement to do so.
Mhm.
This isn't the first time Othram has been involved in cracking a cold case in the Greater Toronto area. In 2019, the company assisted Toronto police in identifying Joseph George Sutherland as a suspect in the 1983 killings of Erin Gilmore, the daughter of a wealthy Toronto businessman, and Susan Tice, a mother of four. Both women were killed inside their homes, and both cases remained cold for nearly 40 years.
Mm.
Sutherland was sentenced to life in prison earlier this year. Good riddance. Quote,
Interesting. Wow.
yeah. Um, again, life in Canada means 25 to life, but hopefully
Mhm.
he won't be let out. So, quote, genealogy was one time a hobby, if you will, and then it was used to help locate adoptive families. And now this application of genealogy from a forensic perspective allows for the identification of relatives that ultimately help to narrow down the name of individuals who have died without their identity being known, or even individuals who are suspects in a crime.
Mm.
So, and that's kind of what happened with like Golden State Killer, for example.
Mhm.
Chris
Mhm.
Lewis is the former commissioner of the Ontario Provincial Police and said recent advancements in genetic genealogy for the purposes of solving cold cases mark a turning point in the way those cases are investigated. Saying, quote, years ago in the 80s and 90s, in the early days of DNA, you had to have a sample from a crime scene and then, of course, a sample from a suspect to try and match them in some way.
Oh.
Um, yeah, he was not involved in the identification of Pennell's remains. Just to mention that.
Mhm.
But now you have the ability to identify people unidentified human remains, etc., through this genetic approach, and ultimately through a huge database that's been developed since.
Mm,
Um, he said it's likely cold cases will still exist, especially in situations where no suspect or suspect DNA is identified at the scene, which happens all the time. But in cases where police can make a forensic link to a person who was at the scene other than the victim, or when human remains are unidentified, therein lies a big advantage for investigators. Police services all over Canada have been reviewing those old so called cold cases to see if the technology has developed to the point now that we can use it. And a lot of old, previously unsolved cases are being looked after because of the science. So, who was William Joseph Pennell? So, Pennell had spent time in several correctional institutions for a variety of criminal offenses and was arrested for armed robbery and attempted murder, lovely, on June 30th, 1979, while out on parole, police said in a news release issued earlier this month.
mm,
After he was charged, Pennell was sent to the Collins Bay Institution in Kingston. Police said Pennell admitted to his role in the crime and said there were at least two other people involved. However, he refused to implicate them as he believed his life was in danger.
mm,
Pennell was convicted of the robbery in April 1980.
mm,
2 months later, he escaped from prison. To this date, no detailed records about the escape have been located.
mm,
While the details of his escape remain unclear, police said Pennell told a friend he intended to flee to South America. Police believe that was Pennell's last contact before his death. Pennell's cause of death was never determined, but investigators believe foul play was involved. So that's interesting. The
mm.
investigation into Pennell's death is ongoing, and police say they're looking to speak with additional friends and associates of the 26-year-old to understand what happened following his 1980 prison escape.
Mm.
That's that.
Okay.
If there's
I
any
have
updates, we'll say.
I have something for
Okay.
today's episode. So EB Games, I'm coming to update you guys on the Nintendo Switch. I know I didn't update you guys like last like few episodes. So the Nintendo Switch 2 is releasing to uh I believe 5th.
So in like three
eh,
days from this coming
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 3 days when this is coming out. Yeah. So like a lot of the EB games in Canada have revealed a full list of the midnight launch. So, like, have you ever been to a midnight launch before, Tanika?
No,
Like, you know,
please.
oh,
No.
that's a shame. That's a shame. Never been to a midnight launch to anything, like any
No,
forms of
why?
entertainment,
No.
like for a CD, like for
No.
an album.
Absolutely not. I'm in bed.
Wow.
I'm in
Okay,
bed.
you're missing those types of experiences.
I'm good.
But like it's fun. Like you see the people lying out talking about, your your favorite games or etc. This and that.
Not my thing.
How just having a blast. I done it a couple times, twice, and it was fun. It was fun. But yeah. So EB Games released a list of certain uh promises that will have the um Nintendo Switch. So like, Calgary, Edmonton, uh also you have the Toronto area, Mississauga, Toronto, and then you have Montreal, Quebec City, Vancouver, Victoria, and West Vancouver. Obviously, there will probably be more added um on this website called mobilesyrup.com. But yeah, I noticed like when in the Toronto area there's basically, Scarborough Town Center. Hopefully, I know that the Pickering Town Center might do something because like every single time there's some big ass releases, they usually do something. So like yeah. And then the Square One. Square One is on this list as well. Have you never been to Square One, have you, Tanika?
No.
No, never been to Square. Okay, that's cool. But like, yeah, Square One's on here. But yeah. So then, yeah, like I said, the Nintendo Switch will be releasing on June 5th. I'm sure more retailers will have it, but they probably won't have midnight launch, just like EB Games has it. So like, Best Buy will have it, uh, in their stores probably the next day. Um, who else will have it? I would say, Chapters will most like have probably a little bit of few. Uh, um, and I'm guessing I'm missing a couple of electronic stores. Walmart, there you go. Walmart will have it as well, and plenty more retail stores out there, including online stores such as Amazon. If you don't want to go in to a midnight launch, uh, just buy it online. So, yeah. So enjoy your systems on June 5th, everybody. There
Yeah.
you go.
All right. So my final topic now
Yeah.
is also an update on that real estate lawyer that we talked about who committed fraud. So
Mhm,
just as a refresher, we'll kind of talk about kind of
mhm,
what happened in the
mhm,
update. So a disgraced real estate lawyer who well, not probably about a month or so ago, admitted to pilfering millions in client money to support her and her family's lavish lifestyle, was handcuffed in a Toronto courtroom that afternoon and marched out by a constable to serve a 20-day sentence for contempt of court as her husband and mother watched. So Singa Bui consistently ignored orders of the court and complied only when faced with a warrant for her arrest or threat of incarceration. Ontario Superior Court Justice William Chalmers, there it is again.
mhm.
I mentioned before. Oh snap. But anyways, yes, William Chalmers said in sending her off to jail. He also ordered that 2 days after Bowie gets out, and which would be probably she's out now, her husband and former law partner Nicholas Cartel must go back in to serve 10 days remaining on his own contempt sentence after a bizarre twist in which he was wrongly released early. Um, it's the latest chapter in the saga of the high living lawyer couple whose now defunct firm Cartel and Bowie LLP embezzled nearly $7 million from home buyers and sellers in Southern Ontario before the scheme came crashing to a halt last year.
Mm,
At least 26 plaintiffs are pursuing Cartel, Bowie, and their firm in court. Many have already obtained judgments totaling millions of dollars and orders for Bowie and Cartel to hand over documents and answer questions about where the money went. But they would then find themselves up against what the judge was described as repeated failures by Bowie and Cartel to comply over the last 10 months, which triggered the contempt findings. Bowie's license to practice law in Ontario, along with Cartel's, has been suspended pending further investigation. He has repeatedly claimed he had no knowledge of any misappropriation, that's which the
mhm,
judge has said many times he finds implausible. Police are also investigating and have not decided whether to lay criminal charges, which could lead to years in prison. The case has exposed frailties, there we go, both in the self-regulation of lawyers' trust accounts by the Law Society of Ontario and also in the home buying process in the province, which critics say is vulnerable to financial manipulation by unscrupulous attorneys. Cartel and Bowie breached their fiduciary duty, and as lawyers, those are the people that we're supposed to trust, said plaintiff Nancy Marcella of Richmond Hill, who is out
mm,
of $220,000 that the firm had been holding on to after the sale of her former home in 2021 while she settled her divorce. Marcella attended court Friday, or whatever day this was, to serve legal documents on Bowie before she was taken away to jail. That's a good way to serve somebody. Quote, it's really disturbing that lawyers can get away with that. And it took so long since 2014. I can't believe it. So she's been dealing with this for quite some time. Marcella was referring to her relations at a hearing earlier that week, and in a last-minute sworn statement from Bowie, in which the lawyer now admits she started stealing from her firm's trust account, a tightly regulated lawyer bank account that only holds money belonging to clients and not the firm, as early as 2014. Usually, I mean, again, every firm does their own thing when it
Yeah.
comes to trust funds. I don't know
Mhm.
how it works within a real estate firm.
How does it work with you guys? Do you know or no?
Yeah. So basically, with trust accounts in our firm, we use our trust funds that we would get um, in like retainer fees to
Mhm.
pay accounts.
Mhm.
That is usually what it is for. You're not going to be using it to, pay, like if you have to pay fees to the opposite side for, you know, medical records or anything like that, you wouldn't use trust funds to do that. You would use firm money, so it would come out of the general account. So usually, if um, a trust fund or monies in the trust fund isn't used
Mhm.
and the file has closed, by law, society's rules and regulations, you have to send that back to the client. You
Mhm.
do not keep that because that is the client's money.
Mhm.
Um, so the fact that they're like, I would think honestly, they would probably use their trust fund money for, closing deals or paying um, accounts or whatever the case may be. That would be roughly what probably happened in a real estate firm. Um, Either way, it's not a general account. It is not firm money. It is client money that at the end of the day should be getting returned and or used for the purposes of what you're doing for them in the legal sense. It is not your money.
Mhm.
That's how the trust fund works.
Right.
So
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
her statement, Bowie says she initially poached client funds for small things, quote unquote, like when she and Cartel were behind on a bill payment, but ramped up over the years to pilfering tens of thousands of dollars at a time for luxury purchases like Prada handbags and Christian Louboutin shoes. Get out of here. Um, she also said she took an amount that I cannot quantify at this time to fund unprofitable business ventures by her and her husband.
Mhm.
So, great. Bowie's description reads like a Ponzi scheme. Exactly what I was thinking.
Right.
Quote, I would then try to replace that money with funds received from subsequent real estate transactions. Over time, it became increasingly difficult to keep up with the repayments, and I was in more and more debt, requiring a constant flow of new client funds to pay off the debt. Her
Mhm.
affidavit includes photos and credit card statements showing purchases like 12,175 purchase at Christian Dior Couture, $19,585 on a stay at the Rosewood London Hotel
Mhm.
by yourself. Sure, your husband was there, but anyways.
Wow.
And $119,000 on two framed photographs by Rodney Smith for the law firm's office.
That's crazy.
Insane.
Yeah.
Quote, my husband and I lived well beyond our means. You lived, you didn't live within your means. You lived over and beyond your means.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
our children went to private school at a cost of approximately $100,000 a year. And we had two nannies. Why do you need two? What do both the nannies do? If you watch Sister Wives, you get that joke. At a cost of approximately $95,000 a year for two nannies. We also adopted a luxury lifestyle which we could not afford. No, ma'am. Another plaintiff, Theory Cohen Scally, who has a $475,000 judgment against Cartel, Bowie and their firm, says he couldn't finish reading Bowie's affidavit, saying, quote, I had to put it down in the middle because I was getting so angry. It was her telling us she lived the big life on our money for 10 years and then is trying to pass herself off as a victim. Bowie has suggested to the court that her actions were driven in part by both mental health problems. Oh, get the here.
They
Okay,
always use
therapy,
they always use two main things when they get in
race,
trouble.
mental health,
Mental health and religion.
and religion too. Yeah.
Yeah, religion. Oh, but
But honestly,
I pray
it's
to
like,
God. Yeah.
so you go get therapy. You don't go do retail therapy with your client's money. Like, ugh. Anyways,
Yeah.
um, so yes, driven by mental health problems and by cartel's need for funds for various business schemes. Cohen Scally said that perhaps counterintuitively, the silver lining is that Bowie's statements makes clear that the stolen money is mostly gone. That, he said, means victims won't need to spend much more time or money chasing down the couple's assets and can instead start pressing for compensation from a special Law Society of Ontario fund that can help victims of fraud by lawyers.
Mm.
The Law Society's compensation fund requires, though, that victims try to recover their losses from a lawyer directly, for example, by suing them, before filing a claim, which Cohen Scally criticized as double victimizing. Quote, first, somebody steals my money. Then the Law Society system tells me you have to go chase that money. But everybody knows the money is gone. I've spent $60,000 in lawyers' fees. It's throwing good money after bad. Even then, the Law Society's decisions on compensation are discretionary and unappealable. He noted, and payouts are capped at $500,000. So another odd twist
Mm.
was the announcement by Bowie's lawyer in a hearing that Cartel had been released from jail, so her husband, early on his 30-day contempt sentence handed down on October 25th. Apparently, he was granted the standard early release of a criminal sentence after serving two-thirds, even though the judge had explicitly ordered he serve his full time. I'm shocked. Chalmers laminated in court before issuing an arrest warrant for Cartel. Even the jail doesn't follow my orders. What can I say?
Mm.
Cartel sat apart from his wife and her mother in the gallery. Bowie was marched past him on her way to jail. The court then ordered him to surrender himself to the Toronto South um, Detention Center on December 14th, so this was a while ago, to serve the remaining 10 days on his sentence, meaning he'll get out just in time for Christmas. Great.
Mm.
So I guess he spent Christmas with his family. I don't know about her. Who
Yeah.
cares?
Yeah.
I'll see if there's another update out there, what's kind of going on with them.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, that's
yeah,
it.
that's it.
So I have something else. So you
Oh,
remember
okay.
the outage of Bell Canada, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Bell
That
Canada.
were you affected
So
by that?
no,
No?
I have Rogers. So basically
It
there was a
affected
lot of
Telus.
you with Telus?
Yeah.
Oh, so so you got affected, didn't it?
Yeah, because the funny thing is
Mhm.
I just recently got a phone
Mhm.
for my birthday.
Right.
So I but my mom was like calling me because she was also kind of dealing with an emergency too, but she was calling me and she's like, I'm calling your phone, it's not going through,
Mhm.
really honestly thinking that there was something wrong with my phone,
Yeah.
and not like, something else going on.
Right.
But I also had an appointment with my appointments that I had
Mhm.
um with my naturopath in my fertility clinic, and she wasn't coming on, and I've never had an experience where she's not showing up for an appointment. Turns
Mm,
out they couldn't get in touch with her, so I'm like, something's going on here.
mhm,
And then my boyfriend then also called me a little later, and he's like, "Oh, I'm just checking to make sure my phone was working because I said I had no, like, he couldn't make phone calls." So it
mm,
affected him too. So it was affecting me, my mom. My mom was having issues getting through to certain people. I was having problems getting through to certain people. So like it was like widespread. It affected
yeah,
a lot of people, I think.
yeah. So yeah, I heard it was, affecting a lot of people uh in Canada.
At least this time
Remember,
it
I
wasn't
remember,
Rogers.
yeah, I remember Rogers outage last
Oh,
year. That
Rogers.
was it,
There was two outages.
yeah.
I remember the first one I think was in it was 2022 because I remember I got
Yeah,
COVID that
yeah,
particular
yeah,
weekend
yeah,
for the first time. And that was not even just like
yeah.
phones or internet. It
Mm.
was
The bank,
you
the bank
banks,
was, yeah,
stores,
yeah.
people
Stores
were
were,
yeah, like we went to McDonald's and we couldn't get to pay in cash
yeah.
because their, point of sale wasn't working.
Uh-huh.
So it was just like that was horrible. And then there was another one like a year later with
Mhm.
Rogers. So at least this time it wasn't Rogers.
Mm, yeah, yeah. So basically, expect to get credited.
Oh,
Um, yeah.
okay.
So like,
It was very
once I was
short-lived
okay.
though.
Yeah, well, I was credited when the Rogers thing happened too. So like, I
I
was
think my
credited.
mom was too. Yeah, I
So
remember that.
yeah. So like,
Yeah.
it's spelled, yeah. So the news article on here says that Bell Canada customers could get credit from this week's giant outage. On the well,
hmm
you said it wasn't that much of outage, but like it's
Yeah, it
it's
was
tr
maybe like a half an hour to
Mhm.
45
Yeah.
minutes. It wasn't very long.
So the
Not
article
like
said,
Rogers.
yeah, already it was out for like,
That was all day.
all
The
day
first one was
basically.
all day.
Yeah,
The second one
yeah,
was not as long, but the first one was like literally all day, I think into the
yeah,
second day.
yeah.
Yeah, it
So
was horrible.
yeah, the article from blogto.com. If you were impacted by the internet outage on the Bell network on Wednesday, there might be a way for you to be compensated. The outage, which affected Bell, Telus, and other Canadian service providers, was felt in multiple provinces shortly after 9 a.m. May 21st. It seen prominently impact wireline internet service, with mobile internet still working for some Canadians. Wholesale providers like Tech Savvy, which uses Rogers lines, appear to be having issues as well. Although a Rogers spokesperson said it wasn't seeing an outage, there were mixed reports from customers. Some said their connection was fine, while others said they experienced an outage or slower than usual speeds. So did you feel that? Did you basically felt like it was slower?
Well, my internet is with Rogers,
Yeah, with
so I
Rogers.
didn't
Okay.
feel anything in that sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you
So
didn't
it was more of the phones that were
phones.
affected.
Okay.
Like, yeah,
So
I'm not sure how that works with, again, my phone is Telus.
okay.
Um, my cell phone, I should say, is Telus. My boyfriend, I'm pretty sure he's Telus too.
Mhm. Okay.
So, you
Yeah.
know, or he
Yeah.
actually, or is he Bell? He might be Bell.
Mm.
But anyways, um,
Mhm. So
yeah, so that's
some
kind of yeah. I
yeah.
don't I don't know how that worked with Telus. Like,
Mhm.
how did my cell phone get affected by that?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
it's Telus.
Mhm.
And why didn't my home phone get affected? Because it's Bell. Because my mom ended up calling me on my home phone, on the home phone. So it's like, how did my cell phone get affected? Her cell phone wasn't affected, but our house phone wasn't affected, and it's with Bell. Like that part is, I'm like,
Mhm.
how did that even happen? It's very
Yeah.
confusing to me.
Yeah, it is. So some customers say they were successful in receiving credit from Bell after calling its customer service line. Bell said a customer. Bell gave me $35.85 85 bill credit for this morning's internet outage. Might be worth giving a call to 310 Bell today. Read a post on Reddit. A Redditor says they selected the cancel my subscription option during an automated portion of a call with a customer service rep. I, says the Redditor, I told the rep I would like to cancel my internet unless I can receive a one-time bill credit for inconvenience caused caused by the outage. As I work
That's extreme.
from yeah, it's a little extreme. As
Like,
I
how
work
long were
from
you out of internet? Come on now.
yeah, this
It
is
could
even
have been
from that.
Rogers.
Yeah.
Okay. Which
Oh
was
my
way
god.
worse.
As I work from home and had to relocate temporarily, read the post from
For like
Reddit.
half an hour. What do you
I think they
did?
were trying to
You
try to
didn't
squeeze a little
relocate.
money.
You took a break.
I think they were trying to squeeze a little money from well. And here's another comment from the Redditor. I was expecting $5, if anything. Maybe 10 or 15, if lucky, surprisingly. She came back and applied a 35.85 bill credit to my account. Your mileage may vary. Good luck. So several customers applied, blah, 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 and successfully received credit. And there was a lot of customers that received a lot of credit as I'm reading all the comments. And yeah. Um I don't know. Maybe I was expecting like, Bell would announce something, but
No, they
I'm
want to keep
guessing
this
if we
one under
call right
wraps.
away, huh?
They don't want people calling and getting credits. Come on now.
Yeah.
They're gonna keep that under wraps.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So like, I don't know. I thought, I guess it was just like, you have to call in and just get your credit, I guess, and I don't
I
know.
mean, like, honestly, the maybe the internet outage was longer than
Mhm,
what I dealt with the phone.
mhm,
But again, it's just like even like okay, maybe I'm just being like mean or
mhm,
something, but
mhm,
when you're literally dealing with a Rogers outage that didn't just affect internet, phone,
mhm.
cable, or whatever. And again, like most
Right.
TVs now are operated through the internet. But also affecting, you know, payments going through at a store.
Mhm,
You know, me and my mom that first year,
mhm,
we were going to a spa because I had gotten a gift card from my mom to go to like a spa for my Mother's Day. And then I also did too. And then like I got COVID the day after. But anyways, um it like they couldn't even put the payment through for the gift card. And then
mhm.
like I think I had to pay because I didn't have a gift card, so I had to pay. But like we literally had to come back and
Right.
pay because their their system wasn't working.
Yeah.
So don't come and talk to me about like an hour of outage from the internet when like Rogers being out affects
Yeah.
like a huge
Yeah.
population,
Yeah.
you know?
Do you see that like, need more competition? I know we have like smaller providers, like
Yeah.
like that have a because I've been with like like I think it was a third party and they were like, a lot slower compared to Rogers and
Yeah.
Bell, like a lot slower. Like I don't think I will ever go back ever because I was with Fido, but they Rogers took over Fido's
Right.
internet. So
Well, Rogers took over Fido
yeah, yeah,
in
basically,
general.
yeah.
I think like there's but my mom is kind of like the kind of person, and I kind of agree with it, where certain things are meant to stick with certain companies, right? And
Mm-hmm.
what I mean by that is sometimes, yes, it can be annoying to deal with like Rogers or
Mm-hmm.
TELUS or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when it comes to like the customer service and getting through to whatever to get through to somebody. But oh, it's what you know. Like my mom has internet and TV obviously with Rogers.
Yeah.
Bell with is the phone, house phone, because we still had
Yeah.
house phone. My mom's been with TELUS since it was ClearNet.
Right.
If you tell me you're
And,
old without telling me you're old, do you remember ClearNet?
yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
remember. I mean, like Telus just kind of
TELUS took over
was
ClearNet.
new. Like it was just like Rogers and Bell in the space, and then
No, but
Telus was like,
TELUS was new, yes, but TELUS took over a company that was already existing. They took
mm,
over ClearNet. So, it,
mhm,
but like, they're huge in cell
mhm,
phones, like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
like,
mm,
my mom has that, and that's kind of like that is kind of how I would operate in the sense of I don't feel comfortable going to those smaller companies
yeah,
just because it may be cheaper or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
getting what you pay for.
yeah. See, I don't mind trying something new, right? For me, I'm open to that. I'm open to like try something new. If it's awful, I'll cancel it, right? And go back to the what I know. But otherwise than that, if it's cheaper and it works really well, I'll stick with it. Like I
Mhm.
tried when I went to a different phone line other than the Rogers and Bell. I went to remember it was called Wind, right?
Yeah, I remember you went to
And
Wind.
I went to Wind and I've been with them for years. And years and years. I think so over 11 years now I've been with them. And now they're called Freedom Mobile, right?
Hmm.
And it's been a rocky road. It was like they were horrible from the start, but they have gotten better with the lines, right? Their lines have gotten better over
Hmm.
the years, and and I'm still with them to this day. So like, and they're a bit more cheaper when it comes to their uh sus- their subscription of their monthly payments when it comes to paying bills. So like, yeah, yeah. Like I don't mind wanting to do or seeing something new pop up. If I see something new, I'm willing to try it. I want to just like see if it will work out. If it doesn't work out, then I'll just go back to the original. Is it the original? Yeah, the original three. So yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's basically it for today's episode of the Next Take podcast. So the Next Take podcast episode 105 has ended. So Next Take podcast is available now on all podcast platforms. We also have a website called Tanika.
Next Take Podcast.podpage.io.
And where else we at?
Facebook and Instagram, Next Take Podcast, and Twitter, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Next Take Pod.
And you can contact us at email at mikeltanika@gmail.com. That is mikeltanika@gmail.com. So we talk about numerous of things. I'm sure Tanika, do you have that written down or do you remember any of it? I know that I talked about the EB games. Is like, announcing that they're releasing the Switch 2 in midnight with a lot of provinces or cities in the provinces. And also the Bell Canada, we talked about the outage, and then the three other things that you talked about was TikTok.
Yeah, the TikTok ban in Canada,
Yeah. Yeah.
the half century cold case that just got cracked.
Yeah.
And we also did the update on the fraudsters, the real estate
Mhm,
fraudsters.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, that's what I did.
That's pretty much it. Okay. Is it anything else you want to say? Anything else you want to
Yeah, we are
emphasize?
officially in June, which means we are officially in Pride Month,
Hmm.
which means that we are doing our Pride Month series,
Hmm.
which starts on Thursday.
Okay. All right.
All
That
right.
should be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I have nothing else to say either. Um, well, of course, there's more to talk about in the next episode, but like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to end this episode. So I'm
Okay.
Mikel, and
I'm Tanyka.
we're out until
Thursday.
Thursday. All right. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.